Not long after becoming the assistant GM here, Andy Weidel put forth that management's goal should be in part to build a team that you feel good about as you're getting off the bus. Love that line. And it's apparently more than just a line. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into hockey and or baseball. I also cover the Penguins and Pirates, the other two teams in town, and offer daily shots of those. Eagles 40, Chiefs 22. Wasn't even that close. Wasn't an interesting game from the very beginning. Heck, it might not have been an interesting game from the moment the Eagles got off the bus. 21 first downs to 12. 345 total yards to 275. 70 plays, total plays, to 49. Not interesting. Not interesting. They came at Patrick Mahomes. They came at Travis Kelce. They limited them both. And that was it. Those were the players that you would fear the most. Those were the players that you would want to take out the most. They came defensively from all directions. The Eagles did. It wasn't just about being clever. It was about being overpowering. It was about winning up front. And offensively, the Eagles won up front too. I don't know that the stats are going to be all that reflective. They had 135 rushing yards to Kansas City's 49. That's going to be more indicative of the score than it is of performance, but that's also who the Eagles are. And everything that the Eagles are, however distasteful it might feel to acknowledge this, is what these Steelers hope to be under the management team of Omar Khan, Weidel, and of course Mike Tomlin. That's why everybody in that draft room a year ago who pounded the table for more, even more offensive line help won the day in landing Troy Fautanu. Now, yes, it was a class that had a lot of good tackles, so it made sense in more ways than one, but you still got that guy. That's why Arthur Smith was brought in from Atlanta to adopt this type of approach offensively. Doesn't happen overnight. Takes time to populate it with all the right personnel. Takes time to get used to it. Takes time to embrace that mindset. Remember when the Steelers played in Philadelphia at the start of that wild run of 3 games in 11 days? Remember how I shared with you, this was just my own view, that I thought the Steelers handled themselves overall pretty well at Lincoln Financial Field. They didn't look overmatched or overwhelmed or anything. They were competitive. Not a lot of people appreciated my expressing that, but for what it's worth, I also shared with you my view that day that the Eagles were the best team I'd seen in the NFL all season. Not very many people appreciated that either, but hey, they were the ones holding the trophy last night. The biggest difference, and I remember discussing this in that locker room with Calvin Austin afterward, it was a lot about how the Eagles have been doing this Eagles thing for a long time now. It's in their bloodstream, which is a big part of what makes them so challenging to face this time of year, because they're able to do so much of this so systematically throughout the season that they don't spread themselves thin and they don't wear down. If anything, it's the other way around. Those sequences, especially in the first half, when they were just coming at Mahomes, that to me looked like Steelers of the mid-90s or the late 2000s. It was just men versus boys. It was a mismatch that made you almost feel bad, almost, for the guys in red. And it's a great, great way to win in the playoffs. And of course, in the Super Bowl. You won't always pull it off, and the Eagles haven't always pulled it off. Meaning to conclusion. But going with size and strength and bulk and fire and physicality, yeah, I'm okay with that. I was okay with it last summer. I was okay with it in the preseason. I was okay with it in the early parts of the regular season. I wanted to see more. I still hope to see more of that, even as I hope that there are answers, some form or other, to stiffen that defense up front. It's really mind-boggling if you think about it that the Steelers got gashed for 299 yards on the ground in Baltimore, while Cam Hayward was all-pro, TJ Watt was all-pro, Alex Highsmith's up there, Keanu Benton's up there, Larry Ogunjobi, the veteran, is up there, and Landon Roberts, noted run stuffer, is up there. Didn't work. Didn't happen. And now you've got a draft class, that's loaded with defensive linemen and already hints from inside the organization that that's the direction they're going to go. Okay, but hit it. Get yourself a Stephon Tuitt if you're going to do that. Find the hole and patch it up in the biggest way possible. Whatever it is that happens, whatever it is that gets prioritized over the offseason, just keep making sure that it looks a whole lot like those guys in green did last night. Skill positions included. When we come back, J1Q. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George is a personal injury law firm in Western Pennsylvania that represents injured people in automobile accidents, workers' compensation cases, and medical malpractice claims. The attorneys at Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George pride themselves in doing what they say they're going to do. It's important to them that when they make you a promise, they keep that promise. And this law firm has been keeping promises for over 80 years. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George has been AV rated. That's the highest rating a law firm can receive for legal ability and ethics. And the lawyers at the firm have been designated super lawyers, that's a real thing, for over 15 years. Rare combination there. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George has offices in Cranberry, Newcastle, Beaver Falls, Butler, and Elwood City. Learn more about them at lgkg.com or by calling 888-842-5454. Again, that's 888-842-5454. Today's J1Q comes from Jay Mars, who says, DK, what if Justin Fields wants to hit the open market? Is the door really closed on anyone, honestly? This is the only chance where Fields can get overpaid. I don't know if Fields is expecting to be overpaid. I also don't know that there will be a more attractive overall situation for him than staying here in Pittsburgh with an offensive coordinator who genuinely respects him and is eager to work with him and convinced that there's a lot more there to be had if they can continue on the path that they'd begun last year. My expectation, what I know, and I mean know, is that the Steelers want to sign Fields. What I was told by Fields himself is that he wants to come back. And what the calendar tells us is that there's ample time to get that done before any team can even place a phone call. So I don't think this is going to be one of those situations, and you've seen this in the recent past. Omar Khan's done it before him. Kevin Colbert did it, where you let a guy go out into that market, gauge for himself what his value is, and then come back to the Steelers and say, well, listen, the Rams offered me $8 million a year. The Chargers offered me $9 million a year. And what do you got? So the Steelers say, all right, well, we'll give you 10. I'm not taking that risk. I'm sorry, I'm not. Not to make it sound like Fields is the be-all, end-all, or that you give him whatever it is that he wants, but you have to consider the entire circumstance. Chiefly that if you don't bring back Fields, you're sitting there with your jaw on the floor wondering who's going to perform your most important single role in the 2025 season and beyond. And if you do want to talk about overpaying, then you start talking about the Steelers getting involved in Sam Darnold and other options like that. I'll repeat from my reporting late last week that Russell Wilson did not make a positive impression on or off the field with very important people in that structure, and those people would much rather that he doesn't return. Now, to borrow from your terminology, no, the door hasn't been slammed, because the door doesn't get slammed until somebody goes public and says, man, we can't wait to get rid of this guy. Nobody's going to do that. If you think about it, that happens very, very rarely anywhere in the world of sports. But I'll reiterate that based on what I've heard, oh my goodness, no, he's not coming back. Oh, and one other important thing on this. Art Rooney said in his meeting with us a couple of weeks ago that quarterback was the Steelers' first priority. Now, there's different ways to define priorities. You can talk about which one's most important. You can talk about which one comes first chronologically. I really got the impression sitting in there that he was referring to chronology, meaning they wanted to get that done, and they wanted to get it done in the near future, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're not going to know what your budget is for this, that, or anything until you know what your quarterback budget is. But also, it's nice to have a quarterback on a football team. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. I'm going to do another one of these tomorrow.